answers to triggers to stress. By that I mean, if someone comes to a conclusion that what I'm going to do right now can result in this, I may need to talk to someone, I may need to maybe go and wipe.
First of all, I would recommend you, if you feel that way, to belong to a group therapy. You know, group therapy means it's not for the sick. We just discuss. There's a group called Kibirio, whom I've also discussed with them. I've also presented their group. But they just meet and talk once a month. Talk about the issues. And I think that would be a good place to begin. But number two, if you think you are actually heading towards the stress levels are very high, I think it will be important to have somebody, a kind of a mentor, a kind of a counselor, a kind of a whatever, whom you could download, whom you download to, and then they can say a few things that will return your mind back to the center. That is if you're at the stress level.
Yes.
If you are going towards burnout and the other ones, I would really recommend you go to a Christian counselor. Why Christian? Because counseling is not a science.
Yes.
It's a value-based thing. If you go to a guy who is a counselor and he thinks you're always a stressor, he'll ask you to divorce.
Yeah.
But when it's a Christian counselor, she is taught, she can see you're always a problem, but she will not tell you to divorce. Because the Bible doesn't allow it.
Yes.
So it's a dangerous thing to go to a counselor with the wrong values. Because you are desperate. You are not even able to decide. Then the kind of suggestions you are getting may not be in line with the Bible.
Yeah.
So if you are going towards burnout, and it's important, I can recommend several Christian counselors. So you just get my number. Maybe I should give you my number, so that it's not just Waroi. I'll give you the digital one, the one where I said messages, 0743, then 034, then 157. Let me repeat, 0743, 034, 157. Just send me a thing and say, can you send me a Christian counselor? Now the trouble with that is he will charge you. They are now offices. They're having offices. And the argument that they are paying rent. If you don't want to pay, talk to me. because then we'll talk. And there's no charge for talking to me. And maybe as we talk, I can assess, do we really need to go to a counselor who will charge you? Some of them charge 2,000, 3,000 per session. And some can go even to 10,000 per session. And you don't know how many sessions you are going to need. So you need to be aware of that. And we can't condemn them for charging. It's only a new thing in Africa. You are not supposed to charge for counseling. But that is something important. But if you don't now go to the counselor and you are getting burnout, you will get into depression. And now that's a mental case. If you have to go, will be hospitalized. It will take you, now you are not talking 10,000 or 2,000. You will pay, your medical cover will be completely gone. Or because you did not deal with it when it was at a stress level. Whatever the stressor. Maybe it's a marriage issue, or it's a church issue, church administration issue. If you deal with it at another stage and we talk, you might never go to that level. Because I especially after retired, I have spent a lot of my time talking to people. I'm not a professional. My main input is somebody to listen. Because I'm told, not talking, not having a listening ear, may progress you to the other stages. So I'm willing to talk. You know, there's a time there I was in a Java, and the manager said, you know, today you're not paying. I said, why? You have been here so often, today is on us. Because I meet people one after the other, either for tea. Before I stopped working, I used to meet them for lunch. When pension is lower, I went to tea. Because I don't want you to, it has nothing to do with you. You don't have to pay me anything.
Yes.
So it's me to assess what can I afford.
Yes.
And we meet. So it's important to have somebody, and doesn't have to be me, but somebody you, number one, you trust. Number two, is biblically balanced. Number three, is not likely to fail to keep your confidence.
Yeah.
Those are the three critical issues before you go to anybody. What are the three things? Number one, I'm checking whether you are listening. Somebody you can trust. Number two, is he a Bible-based person? And number three, can he keep confidence? And you see, number one and number three are still related. Because I can trust you. You give me good advice. I can trust you. You are a good example, but might you be tempted to talk about the things we have actually shared? If you fail in one of those three, it could actually do more destruction. If you are getting stressed, you now get run out faster after the counselor. Are we together? And those are the things you need to talk about. But the critical thing out of all this, and I was going to it, if you remember at the beginning, I told you it's a support system. I was calling it support system. I think it's the thing to follow. Anyway, move to the next slide. I will not, you did such a good job, I will not spend time talking about this. It is not what happens to you. Stress is not what happens to you, but how you react to it. That means two of us can be going through exactly the same stressor. It doesn't touch you. And yet you are going into depression. Because the stressor is not the problem. It's how you react to the stress. So now imagine, I'm having so much trouble. That's not the trouble. Trouble is how are you reacting to it. For example, there's a boss giving you a lot of trouble. They're even threatening you to fire you. How you respond to it is critical. And if you are proactive, you have already thought, this job I could be fired. What do I do not to be fired? In case after all my effort I'm still fired, what will I do? Once that is sorted out, the guy can cry, jump, run. It doesn't bother you. Because you have dealt with it proactively. Can you see how important this topic is?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you are going to be able to have a balance in your life, it will be very important you take that topic seriously. Anyway, let's move out of here. Whatever your personal definition of stress, it is likely that you can learn to manage your stress better by managing external pressure. And I've talked about that. Developing your emotional resilience. Those are two things you can do. Next page. The effect of stress. When we feel anxious, our bodies release hormones called cortisol. Now, Muigai, now that I practice the name until it enters my mind, now Muigai, read.
Cortisol and adrenaline. This is the body's automatic way of preparing to respond to a threat, sometimes called the fight, flight, or freeze response. If you are often stressed, then you are probably producing high levels of these hormones, which can make you feel physically unwell and could affect your health in the longer term.
Are you getting the relationship between the medical issue and how you are responding to the pressure?
Yes.
Because they are saying they are related. In fact, they claim that 60% or a figure like that of all people admitted in Kenyatta Hospital are all having what is called psychosomatic disorder, psychosomatic disease. What does psychosomatic mean? It means it comes from thinking. It means it's stress. Then I was asking a doctor, you mean somebody is going to the toilet and producing blood, and you are saying it is to the yes? Now you can understand why. You will soon be having your stomach ulcers. But it did not come from a virus or a germ. You are thinking. That's why you can see pastors are critical. Because if the pastors do a good pastoral job, then people will not get thoughts to the level where what you are describing. And that's why you need to be, as pastors, to be careful that you don't have at Sunday a program of Sundays where first Sunday, get saved. Second Sunday, get converted. Third Sunday, get redeemed. And fourth Sunday, come to Jesus. Now, that's how a lot of pastors preach. But they are the same thing, isn't it? You need to understand the commission is, after they come, you must teach them how to live life. And a lot of people assume discipleship is giving them assurance of salvation. Jesus said, those who believe, teach them, disciple them to do whatever I have commanded you. So you have to teach them not just how to live spiritually, but how to live socially, how to live financially, how to live. So in your program for the year, it must cover all the stressors that this group listed for us. You remember them? There must be every year, there must be a topic. Each one of those topics, you must check what does the Bible say about this issue. What does the Bible say? If you do that, you are talking to people who are not stressed. So when the stress comes, do you remember what the pastor said? And if it's an issue you cannot tackle, you just call somebody else. The pastor has that right, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. Somebody comes and tackles that particular issue. In a 52 Sunday year, surely you should cover all of them. So that, but then for you to do that, you have to deal with yourself first. Am I right? You have to deal with because once you are stressed, you can't even remember what was said in Naivasha. That's what we learned as some of the symptoms, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's important to deal with it. Now let's go to the next page. Now, I've forgotten again the name. Masharia. I told you that's what Mudavadi has chosen to call himself. Yes. Now, read that.
Triggers of stress which progress to depression. Feelings of stress are normally triggered by things happening in your life which involve being under lots of pressure, facing big changes, worrying about something, not having much or any control over the outcome of a situation, having responsibilities that you are finding overwhelming, not having enough work, activities or change in your life, in times of uncertainty.
And all those things you can't avoid them. You have no control over them.
Yeah.
There is always something uncertain, isn't it? Let me start with your wife. You can't control her. There will be things she thinks you don't agree with her. And it's putting stress on you, isn't it? Then your children, such as they start becoming those teenagers, they will do things that put you a lot of stress. So, these are all triggers. And it can be more. Go on, next page. Continue the checklist.
Checklist of if stressed. If in the last 3 months you
Let's stop there. Don't start feeling one of these things and think you are stressed. It has to be something that has lasted how long?
3 months.
3 months. Don't feel last night you never slept. I'm stressed. No. It has to be something that goes on. Otherwise, all of us will end up with a psychiatrist. Because we get, so that's the first thing I wanted to emphasize. Now go through the list.
Okay, number 1 is irritable.
Do you feel irritable? Go on.
Harder to live with or volcanic.
Eruptions.
Now, of course, you might not agree, but your wife knows. So when she says you are changing, you are volcanic, don't ignore it. Go on.
Lower concentration, can't do the reading.
Have you ever reached a level where you cannot read a newspaper? Any document you read, you reach the bottom, you ask, what have I read? You go back again, and the second time you still don't understand what you read. And you are a graduate. My friend, you better start seeing, is this for today, or is it going on for 3 months? You actually have a stress issue. Go on.
Failing memory, dates, events, etc.
You know, they even claim when you are older, you have more memory loss. Maybe it's stress. Go on.
Abdominal problems, indigestion, gas, and appetite.
But you have rubbering stomach. Remember, I said 3 months. Don't that if you are stressed because you are rumbling. I mean, it may be just change of food. So don't think that necessary stress. Go on to the next page.
Checklist of if stressed. First one, sleeplessness, hard to fall asleep, chronic fatigue, unexplained tiredness, depression, dull, that is unexplained, not monthly periods.
Of course, I'm assuming I'm talking to people who may be women. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pessimistic, desire to die, feeling of helplessness, hopelessness, uselessness, suicidal, and change of values. Value things most instead of order of God, people, and things.
All of a sudden, you are so interested in being rich. You know that's not theologically correct, but that's where you are. It may be an issue that something is stressing you and frightening you. No wonder now things have become more important than people.
Yeah.
Go on. So, solution is, I've said it, manage expectations. Expectation management is my best method. Because expectation management is just because so-and-so got promoted after 3 years. There's no facts you can base to ensure you're also going to be promoted within 3 years. Why? Not because people hate you, not because you're not hardworking, but circumstances change, isn't it?
Yeah.
So a lot of people that are stressed, their problem is exactly there. Not able to manage their expectations. And what it means is, you still aim high. Remember your vision for the 80th birthday is still there. Mm-hmm. But you keep telling yourself, I'll do my best, but only what God allows will happen. So you do your part, but aware that it's not adequate. You require God's intervention. So that way, a lot of things. And there are many people who are so successful. Some of them are your friends. You talk with your wife about that family and you wonder, how successful? But they are going through a lot of problems. Why? Whatever you think they are doing well, they want it better. So they feel failures. Someone asked him, Kwani, what did you think you are? But something told them he's not like other people. So when you are earning 100,000, to earn like him is an embarrassment. So he wants to be earning 300,000. So he is already 100,000, not many people are earning, who are from the same class. But he is already suffering, can't sleep at night. He is stressed. Expectation? Management. And that's one of the things, if you really want to live a contented life, you must subject your expectations to Christ. You must ensure you leave the final word on any expectation with the Lord whom you trust in. And you know anything good, he says so in Psalm 84. No good thing is he going to withhold. So it cannot be good. And by the way, I said so 1979 in my wedding, when I was allowed to say something. I said, I've already talked to God. And you cannot find it in my wedding card of 1979. I said, I know God has made a promise to me. No good thing is going to withhold me. So next time you see me without a car, there's no problem. Yes. Car cannot be good for me. Because he said, no good thing will he. So for him to withhold it, it cannot be good for me. And I believe that. That God has given me, and he has given me many things. He allowed me to rise in the career ladder to the top management of the biggest oil company in Kenya. I'm not complaining, but I have always known the things I'm not getting is not because I cannot get. It's that they are not good for me. How? I don't know. Over time I get to know why. But initially I just wonder, why would you not allow me? Then I realize, by getting born again, I handed my future into his hands. So expectation management is something you have to manage. You know the good thing about subjecting your expectation to God is that when they finally happen, you don't suffer from the problem of pride. You see, sometimes I don't understand. People, we were in the same class. Can you imagine? He still can't drive. I don't understand people. Now, when you hear you talking like that, you have started crediting yourself with your success. Because if you realize that it is the favor of God, then you realize no good thing will he withhold. There's a reason why it is withheld from the other guy. And that's something that you have to deal with. So, that is an issue you have to deal with. Even in your church. You see the church grow, but I know you are doing your very best, but you know it's not adequate. No, I always like what Life Ministry teaches, be bright. When we came up on evangelism, they came to train us when I was chairman in 1976. That's when Life Ministry arrived in Kenyan universities, 1976. And when they asked them to train us on witnessing, they gave us the be bright definition of witness. They said, witnessing is taking the initiative, number one, to share the Lord Jesus Christ, number two, in the power of the Holy Spirit, number three, and fourthly, leaving the resource to God. What does leaving the resource to God mean? If they get saved, nothing to do with you. They don't get saved, nothing to do with you. So you cannot get depressed. That's why I've been witnessing for the last over 50 years. There's many people have never gotten saved, but I don't stop. I still continue because I leave the resource to God. And I don't start calling myself John Now Evangelist International. No, I'm aware that it is God's favor if anybody gets born again. So if you are a pastor who is crediting yourself with the success of your church, one of these days when people vote with their legs and they leave, we shall also take you to the hospital. Yes. Because you can, what have I done wrong? Nothing! If you leave the resource to God. But you must do your part. You must take the initiative. There is a part for you, but it's not adequate. It's good, but not adequate. You require the favor of the Lord. Next thing, be disciplined enough.
I think before you go to the next one, allow me to interject.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I totally agree with you on managing expectation.
Yeah.
I shared a bit that I
went
through some of these things. And part of it happened because at one point I lost a son.
You lost?
A son.
Your son?
Yes.
He died?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. At least I've been able to deal with that now. That's a
Yeah.
story like any other. And for me, I think having been born again all my life, if I was to say so, because
you are born in a Christian family.
I can remember myself. I used to say I was born again even when I was 4 years, 3 years. At one point, I committed my life to Christ at the age of 10. So I thought I've lived a very good life, and to me, some of these things would never come near me. And so when I got married and then at this point get a son and then he dies, the first thing was like, God, how would this happen to me?
Of all people, me.
Of all people. In fact, I remember asking God, I thought I preached to people, I thought I prayed for people to get healed. I prayed for my son, he can't get healed. Why would you allow this to happen to me? And that actually ate me up so badly. And then number two, what you were saying before, because I wanted to look good and strong in the eyes of people, and especially my church members, I wouldn't share it with anyone. So I bottled it up. Before I realized, I was looking for counselors, I was looking for a psychiatrist. And that's how bad it was. That's why I'm saying, I think I agree totally with you that we need to be real, and because we are pastors, that these things happen to us. We need to stop being optimistic. I'm still digesting that.
Yeah, because all the preaching is aimed at telling people to be optimists.
Yes.
So I come and say the opposite. When I want you to digest, it will take time to digest it.
Yeah, and realize that these things happen to human beings. So I am totally in agreement with you that managing expectations is very key for us. Because I think after that, I've had a few other shake-ups and I don't think I've gotten to that point where I feel I've been pushed too far. But that particular one actually pushed me to a point where I felt like, God, you really disappointed me big time. Having been saved throughout, I've never touched a girl. I've never told another girl that I love her except the one that I married. You know, and I would give him reasons, a whole list of why
this should go to another home, not yours.
Exactly. Until at one point, now God helps me to get to a point where I realize now I've got to be very real with myself. That these things happen to normal human beings, and therefore things can go bad for me, they can go good for me, just like every other person, and then I will be sorted out.
Now, it's very interesting. Some of these things, like my mother, in 1950s, she joined an Anglican church around 1958. You remember, having been born 52, I'm about 5 years or so, isn't it? And that's when I started school. She used to sing a song, and they must have learned it in church. Gekeno na thina ciukaga kuri inyuĩ ciana cia Ngai kĩrĩa mũrĩheagwo oyagai na ngatho. You should know the song, given where you come from.
Yeah, you can remember.
Yes. But you know the song we just sang words. It means nothing until it is much later. I say, what will my mother sing? Gekeno na thina ciukaga kuri inyuĩ ciana cia Ngai kĩrĩa mũrĩheagwo oyagai na ngatho. Then I discovered it is First Thessalonians 5. Is it 17? In everything, give thanks. It's a biblical thing put in a song. But did you know, especially among Pentecostals, we don't want to do that kind of sermon.
Yeah.
Well, it's the Bible. So how do you select? I hear people calling cherry pick the scriptures. That's why I really recommend that idea of having topical system and then Bible exposition system. You take the book of Timothy and you cover it from, because you're forced to say things you don't.
Yes.
I'm just recording for my YouTube account a series of talks on the book of First Timothy. Yesterday I was recording chapter 2, and I say, I wish I could skip this. No, talking about women not speaking in church. I know mine preaches. Now, it's talking about dressing. It's talking about, this is another subject I want to handle. But if you are doing Bible exposition, you go verse by verse. The same way the letter was written. And then after you have, like the teaching focus, you observe, what does it say? Then you interpret, what did it mean to them? Then you finally can apply it to your church. And if you do that, there will be very few subjects you don't cover for your people. So anyway, thank you.
And I think many pastors go into depression and stress and all that because of our unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that we have expectation that I'll plant a church and it grows up and becomes a big one. You know, that I'm sure we can identify that more than the other side of, hey, I'm so excited, the church is so big and take pride. Most of us here, now that we know each other, and identify the fact that I have expectations that I'll plant a church and the church will grow within 2 years. I've hit the headlines that people have come and given us
4 years and it is not reaching where you are going.
Exactly.
You
and
get
that
it.
actually depresses us a lot. So we keep asking ourselves, what have I not done right? Why is it that God is not showing up? And the other guy that is preaching false gospel across the
It's going bigger and bigger.
He's really moving so fast. So we really get to sink because we feel like God is actually not moving us as quickly as we needed to.
The second thing I want to emphasize is to be disciplined. My friend, remember you're talking about how to avoid stress, isn't it? You can't let your life live and not get into depression. Because you're going to do things that will cause you trouble, isn't it? Let me give an example. A friend of mine, when we grew up in our Christianity in Tukutendres, I got saved in the 1960s, we knew you cannot touch wine and claim to be a Christian. One day, and he's a CEO of a company, it's my age mate. He was a CEO of a company, and they decided to go for holiday in Europe. And there's a family, a Christian family, they decided to visit. But every time they are there, the people, every time they went to be, the person says, surely, what's wrong with you Africans? We don't have a proper meal with visitors. You need some wine. Why can't you take wine? No, we don't take any wine. One day, he was coming from upstairs. The wife arrived at the breakfast table earlier, and she was saying, even today you not take a little wine? He said, no, I told you we don't take. The guy said, on his way down said, hey, talk to yourself. Told the wife, talk to yourself. Now, so when he arrived, he was given the wine. You know, it's difficult because the Bible does not tell you never to touch wine. So, you really, let's be clear, you don't have a basis to say your husband has backslidden. He just took some wine, just like the Wazungus. The Wazungus are born again, and they normally have some little wine. When they came back, my friend now got released. So whenever he's in the club, he doesn't take a soda. He takes a glass of wine. After all, he is free. He's still a Christian. Nothing has happened. Do you know within no time, he actually started getting to be addicted. He arrives home. I don't want to tell you where it is in case I'm talking about your uncle. He arrives home and he misses the gate and he knocks the gate. So he says, I told you this thing is bad. And of course he is tipsy. He beat her up. According to the wife, what the wife told my wife, he actually broke the gate and repaired it 3 times. By that time, she is now known there is trouble. So she is trying to do anything, covering up from outside, but inside it is war. And the guy got so annoyed, he beat up this sister until he himself had to take her to Nairobi Hospital. Totally, because he feels she is not recognized. I have the freedom, I can do what I want. Now that's when now she talked. That's how we got to know about it. By the grace of God, he has stopped and he's back to discipline. How come wine does that? It's because the reason you don't take it is a discipline issue. The moment you lower the discipline, you feel something you held to. Now, I have the freedom, I can do it. And nobody was stopping, you were stopping yourself. But the moment you start taking the first glass of wine, you know very well, you now can do anything. Yeah. And very few people go into wine without women entering somewhere. Yeah. I've actually studied it and wondered, you need a proper research. Because I don't know, a brother starts taking a little wine, within no time she is being accused with a woman who is not the wife. And it started from a glass of wine. And yet I told you the Bible doesn't say you cannot touch a glass of wine. So I have discovered the real problem is discipline. That if there's something you have told yourself or not do, if you start doing it, you lower your defenses and you discover yourself doing other things. After all, you said, where is it written in the Bible you cannot take a glass of wine? And then you ask, if I take a wine with a girl, where does it say I cannot talk to a girl? After all, I'm not sleeping with her. I'm only talking to her. Now, once you talk to her, if she actually, and somebody told me that story another time, the girl just simply has other designs. People think that the women are the weaker sex. Not really. I have discovered men should be titled properly. The weaker sex. Because once the woman takes the wine with you, you are finished. A guy just explained one thing led to the other. Within no time, said, "Oh, why don't you drop me home? Where's your car? Oh, they will leave the car in the hotel." She claims the car cannot move, so that you drop her home. Once you drop her home, surely you have done such a wonderful. I'm so grateful. You must have a cup of coffee. And how will you refuse? And she is claiming to be a Christian also. What's wrong with taking tea? When people talk to you, it's when you realize it can also happen to me. Yes. It's by the grace of God I have not used that route. So it all begins from lack of discipline. The moment it happens, you hate yourself. And you have started on the way to depression. Because you never saw yourself being there. Now it has happened. And once you reach that level, my friend, the moment you can't openly repent, accept that what you are seeing is true, you start fighting it, covering it up. David is there. Remember, David did slept with a woman, then became a murderer. That's exactly what happens. And the moment you hate yourself, you will soon be in stress, burnout, and final depression. So it all depends on discipline. What you tell yourself, nobody should force you into a discipline, but the moment you choose it, please understand it's not as simple as just changing. I have the freedom. You change there, but your defenses have gone down. You will discover yourself dropping in many other issues. Maybe you have told yourself you want to be waking up at 5 for prayer. Say, but where is it written in the Bible? Thou shalt wake up at 5. But nobody forced you. You are the one who chose, isn't it? Yeah. Lower that, and you'll soon discover other areas of your life also going down. So it's very important to understand when you are disciplined, you are likely to end up in depression because you are in control of it. If you say, I cannot do more than 10 hours of work, then you are ready to be fired. Rather than do 10 hours, or I will always eat the food with my children before they sleep. Then you force yourself, everything else to face into that. Then you say, but you know these children, even they will not even remember me. You stay in the office. It's a different issue, and my friend, if you don't deal with it, you will discover yourself going the wrong route. Because a pastor, non-pastor, it's a discipline issue. So you need to understand how important it is for you not to end up in stress and out of control. Learn to control yourself. A disciplined person, my children call it the D word. Hey, Papa's D word. Now, I don't know where that came from. But I keep saying, I was telling my children, because they are adults. I tell my children, if you begin reading a book, go through the table of content. Please determine whether it's a book worth reading. The moment you determine it's worth reading, only in chapter 2 to realize how boring it is, read it to the end. Because if you don't read it, you learn how to give up quickly. And it will become part of your heritage. Where anything difficult, you drove. So that's why I'm saying, don't commit yourself to do anything before proper analysis. But the moment you have done proper analysis, stick with it to the very end. You stop, you run from not reading the book to the end. Within no time, you drop your marriage in the same way. Because the guy is not the guy I married. Or this girl is no longer the girl I married. And you give up, just like saying chapter 3 is so boring. So it's important to understand this idea about discipline. As long as you are doing it in order to glorify God, stick with it. And I think that's very, very important. Be disciplined enough. And when you are disciplined enough, then you have no difficulty living a balanced life. Because you just say, this is what I will do, this is not what I will do, and you stick with it. If you stick to discipline, there are certain things you will lose. Certainly. Like the day my friend dropped, was it my guy who dropped some classes? Yes. Who dropped? This is my guy. Was the day you drop some classes, even the money is also dropped. You will not get it. So, but discipline means you are willing to pay the price for the discipline. That's how you live a balanced life. You are able to say no. In the end, you will not be as rich as so and so, but you are not in a competition. Next page. Remind me the name. Karweji. Katiyajaga muno. Karweji. Yes. Mwalim, just read that one.
Much of life is a question of maintaining balance. Any athletic team knows that they need a balance between offense and defense, and between quickness and strength. in our personal finances, we need to work to maintain a balance between income and expenses.
Let's just leave there. You know, if you don't learn to live within your means, my friend, you end up stressed. And what does living within your means means? You see how much money you have, and you force your budget to fit within the income. It sounds easy, but many people don't. You, at the time you have agreed your budget, something happens, and you don't even bother with your budget. You just do what needs to be done. Back to discipline, isn't it? Or you have in your family, in your father's family, some challenges are happening. You know what your father thinking, you are not helpful. So you take all the money for rent, and you're doing good thing, but is it not time there is trouble in your own marriage? Am I right? Because you are not living within your means. You must assist your father within the means. But other people don't do that. We are our father's boy. He suffered so much when we were growing up. We don't want him to suffer again. But unfortunately, you are not God. You do what you need to. You must help your parents, but only within your means. That is very, very important. But unfortunately, you need to understand that many of the basic things you require, they are always way of operating within your means. Let's talk about a car. You know you can buy a Mercedes at 10 million, and you can buy a Vitz at 1 million. Am I giving reasonable figures? Yes. Now, but a Vitz will carry 5 people. A Mercedes also carries
5 people.
So, were you looking for a show car or transport? In transport, a Mercedes is no better than
A Vitz.
Let me tell you, just to get you to understand. If you are moving now to Nakuru, the Mercedes cannot arrive any earlier than a Vitz. Why? A Mercedes is supposed to go at 300 kilometers an hour. But unfortunately, the Kenya government says you have to stick at 100. A Vitz can go at 150 kilometers an hour. But it's limited at 100. Both of them can go faster, but unless you are a breaker of the law, we will just follow each other. The Mercedes and the Vitz. All the way to Nakuru. The only time there might be a difference is if you are coming back from Nakuru. Because on a hill, even at its very best, the Vitz might not be able to make it at 100. It will go to 80. By that time, the Mercedes is keeping it 100 with no problem. But on a flat place and downhill, makes no difference. Am I right?
Yeah, you are right.
So what are you buying? It's getting a loan of 10 million. If you can afford it, go right ahead. If you are struggling, you're just a fool. Because what you need is transport. So you cannot really get transport within your means. Am I clear? That's very important to understand. What about, let's pick another item. Let's take food. You know, you eat water balanced diet. It is protein, vitamin and carbohydrates. Let's start with the protein. Protein depends on your income. Because beans, we are told they are the best protein. Anybody who knows something about nutrition, we are told vegetable proteins are better than animal proteins. Am I right? Yes. If you are using beans, you just go to the co-op, buy a bag of beans, keep it in your house, and once a week they are boiled, isn't it? Yes. And then kept in the fridge. Yes. Your children have a balanced diet. That's a withdrawal price. If you actually buy in mass beans, it will be hard anything. Yes. And you are sure throughout every day they can eat something else with beans, something else with beans, and they are sure of protein. Now if you get richer, buy them some meat, isn't it? If you get richer than that, bring chicken. If you get richer than that, take them to a seafood once in a while. But when your body takes beans, the cells say, thank you, you have given me protein. When you give them beef, it seems says, remember it doesn't take meat, it takes the protein. And the cell will not know Whether it was from beans or the goat was proteins. Can you imagine how foolish it is to go putting money in meat and it's not giving you something better than beans? I'll get to my point.
Yes.
Can you see it is possible with the right understanding to live a balanced life at whatever cost, whatever money you can afford? Or let's speak starch. My friends, if you have no money, just go to the Copa and buy a bag of maize. Convert it into unga. Yes. And the Copa, they have kakarakara, those things in the village, they are available there. They will turn the thing into unga. They tell her that unga is richer than jogo.
Yes.
Have you heard of those stories? Yes. Now then make sure every morning your children have porridge. You'll be strong in school, isn't it? Yes. You don't have to take all those things being advertised. Because starch is starch. After the body works on the starch, it will take the thing into the cell. But if you get richer for variety, buy them bread. But I'm told bread is not as good as porridge. Buy them. If you get richer, buy them Weetabix. But again, remember when it's the Weetabix, ikiswago ni starch. At a very high price.
Yes.
So why are you buying Weetabix if you can afford? Accept foolishness. Now, it's very important. I'm not communicating. Yes. You can actually live within your, and I could go on to mention several other things in whichever way. Now, when I was getting married in 1979, one of the things that came to my mind is I would not want to make the other men, and now Gedega knows my best man, I did not want to get them to buy their best. And remember, we have just come out of campus. If you make the most expensive suit, a suit the guy doesn't like, it's not fair. So we look for a nice suit at a cheap price. You know how you can tell it is cheap? After 3 washings, it doesn't look good.
Yes.
But the pictures remain.
Yes.
I'm not communicating. Yeah. So after the wedding, now I can buy the suit I like, isn't it? And you can see clearly what I'm after, it to look smart in the wedding. Why must it be beyond my means? And yet you can buy a wedding vein, you know wedding vein, very right. But in the photograph, it looks fantastic. And what you keep is not the suit. After all, within 3-4 months you are so rounded, you can't fit in the suit. Am I talking practical things? Yes. So you need to understand that we are talking about living a balanced life. What is pushing you to the extent of getting depressed is you are trying to live outside your means. And that does not stop you getting rich. And that does not stop you from graduating from porridge to bread to Weetabix. It's okay. But don't go to Weetabix before the money comes. That's really what we are talking about. And you discover your life will be relaxed at whatever income. Because there is nothing that is important and basic to your family you are not providing for them. Sending in schooling. You take them to Makini, and the school fees they are being asked is far much more than you pay. My wife is a lecturer in Desta. What Desta charges a first year is less than what Makini charges as the red one. The choice is yours. And the difference with primary school, you can't do Arabic for the other one. But the same people who are taking their children through very expensive schools, once they got to university, they start doing Harambe. But unfortunately, the people in Makini don't necessarily do better than the ones in the village next to you. Am I right?
Yes.
We have seen the results announced, haven't we? And the private schools don't necessarily do better than the national ones, the public ones. And I'm not suggesting you take your children to a public one, because there are other amenities that are better. So if you can afford it, go there. If you can't afford, why are you taking your child there? Am I communicating? Yes. We are talking about how to avoid stress. And you need to ask yourself, that is a very critical issue. Balancing your income and expenses. Yes,
Or
brother.
to interject and comment.
Yeah.
This also we should extend it to the church congregation or the churches that we need. Because the number of us is not all.
Yeah.
We are responsible for congregations where there are some decisions that may come even from us in terms of finances. We can be able to influence the choices and the allocation of budgets depending on our needs.
Good. In other words, the church can do a wonderful, wonderful ministry within its means. Anyway, you are read. Where have you read up to?
Expenses.
Karoji,
Expenses.
go on.
In teaching, we try to keep the proper balance between content and creativity. Too much emphasis on content and the subject becomes boring. And too much emphasis on creativity, and you have a lot of fun but communicate little.
Go to the next page and let Karoji continue.
Clever fool.
Yeah, this is a story I'm finishing with as we finish the day.
He took all the 110 minutes to answer the first question. And when it was 10 minutes to the end of the 2-hour exam, he remembered that there were another 4 questions to do. And so he tried to do the other 4 questions in 10 minutes. You are likely to guess what happened. He got very good marks on the first question, but of course, it was only allocated 20 marks. He therefore still failed the whole exam.
Are you getting it? And now we are not talking about, remember there are 7 areas of your life I listed, isn't it? You know, 3 in private, 2 in social, personal, and then the rest under public, isn't it? Each one of them must be allocated time. Unfortunately, some people allocate their public life 110 marks, only to discover they have not left any time for private and social. So you discover, in the end, a very successful professional, but the marriage can't hold together. Of course, it's worse among women. Many women, not all, many women who succeed professionally have no families. In fact, it sounds like to succeed, you must kick away your husband. Then once he is not there, now you succeed. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
All the most of the major ladies in the Kenyan press, big guys, check where their husbands are. Now, my friend, if you get an A on question 1 and a D in the other questions, your average will still be a D. Am I right?
Yes.
And that is how your life will be. Remember, we are still, from the morning I told you about the vision at age 8. When you are being evaluated at age 8, and you become a wonderful, the speech of the civil engineer is what a wonderful civil engineer you are. But all the rest are saying what a non-contributor you are. What is your overall assessment? You failed life. So the reason we emphasize this topic is because for you to be a success, you must do all the 5 questions within the time available. What is it in your life you are not allocating adequate time? What is it in your life that is taking so much of your time, you are hardly leaving any time for the other things in your life? You need to ask yourself, and not now alone, but continuously. You know, now our children left home, our last, even without necessarily leaving home, our last born did KPE in the 1990s. The last born. So it means through the new millennium, people are already in boarding school or out of home. But you know something? I still have a responsibility to look after Rebecca, isn't it? To take her out for tea. I did that yesterday. You know, and I'm finishing with this. There is no amount of history that will work now. You remember I took you out? Then, yes. Why are you not taking me? Now. And the issue is not money. We sometimes go in my life just walking. Just walk. Doesn't cost anything. But if by the time, even if we are not talking initially, we normally used to walk until COVID came. We were walking in Jeffries. And we'll do something like 4 kilometers, 5 kilometers. By the time, you know, in 1 hour. By the time we are on the 3rd kilometer, even if we are not talking, we start talking. And it doesn't cost us anything. So it's not a money issue. You can take your wife for a mandazi in the next place. The important thing is for her to know you have stopped everything just to be with her. Is that time available? Well, oh, number is that big. Yeah. You are putting too many marks on question number 1. The overall result is you're a failure. That's really what we need to check for me and for you, all of us. I'm still struggling with the same. Because there are things you enjoy doing, others you don't enjoy doing. And yet they are all part of the exam. Exactly the same way. Question number 1 is the one I was revising last night. Oh, thank you, God. You've just brought the one I want. But the other questions which you don't know anything about are still part of the exam. And if they spread the marks per question, it means even mark, even tiny, must be the same, isn't it? Yes. You can't allocate less time if the marks are the same. So as a pastor, as a professional, what in your life is not balanced? And if you continue being unbalanced, you will soon discover you end up in burnout and stress. Let's allow 1 or 2 questions, then we can promise the Zoom. A comment, a question? We are finishing. Yeah, it's not an easy matter.
Or maybe you have done something.
Live wire.
Yes.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm also talking to myself. I'm not just talking to you. I'm talking to myself.
Is age a factor?
Is age a factor?
Yes.
No.
What you're talking about is age a factor?
No. You hear that I can fail to give my grandchildren time. And it will still be equally wrong. I cannot be called a success when my grandchildren want to see me and I feel like it's a waste of time. They have not a grandfather. It's me they want some time with. The challenge, unfortunately, continues into old age. I wish you could say that you get better. Like if you don't know how to manage conflict in your marriage, time doesn't help. Even in your, after you've been married for over 40 years, you will still have quarrels you can't manage. And the Bible doesn't allow you to divorce. So you just continue suffering without bitterness. But if you could learn how to manage it early, then the time of suffering is reduced. But age will not be the issue. It is you take action, you pray about it, and you start acting on what the Lord is saying. Am I really dealing with your question?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't quite change. You know, a lot of people think when our children leave home, we'll be okay. No.
What I had in mind was, are there times we can say in our earlier stage of life, we can allocate more time on this, and we go reduce.
Oh, yeah.
Or are there...
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct, because if your children are young, that's the time to avoid promotions.
Okay.
Because you know very well, and thank you very much for raising it, because your children require more of your time when they are young. They become teenagers, and even if you resign your job and stay home, they'll still lock themselves in their room. That's the behavior of teenagers. You call your son, he says, Papa, what do you want? You say, have you checked your book? Yes, I have. Is that all? Back to his room. I knew that because by the time my children became teenagers, I was doing I was covering 10 countries. So I was flying from place to place. I ring from Tananarivo in Madagascar. I ring my wife, how are you? Oh, they are here. But they're not talking to me. They are locked up in their rooms. They are in high school. They are close. But my wife is as lonely as always. Because They don't see what's your problem. We are in our room. Now, so you need to understand that if you are not available to your children before age 10, no amount of availability will be useful after that. It does not mean they don't require you, but they don't require in the same way. But a small child doesn't want to learn lectures. He just wants to jump on the father. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, if you are not available at that time, and the trouble is, when your family is young, it's also when you are looking for promotion. So that's when you are not available. So that's the struggle you have to manage. You want to do well at work, but yet you may have to change jobs to look for a job that allows you to be available until your last born is 10 years. Why 10 years? Because scientists tell us a child's worldview is made before you count in double digits. By the time you count double digits, the child has made up their mind what is good and what is bad. When you talk to teenagers, they just listen. But they already know what they want. But a small child are like a sponge. They eat whatever you give them. They absorb. They don't know the father is the best. Teenagers. They think the father has a problem. So it will be very important to understand that, and that is good you have raised it. But then the question I asked, now that I retired, do you know something? If you forfeit your family and grow very quickly, by the age of 35, you are in top management. The other one, the first 10 years is slowed down, so he doesn't get promotion. Then the children go to high school, and he is now pushing hard. You will enter top leadership at the age of 35. He will enter top leadership at the age of 45. Both of you are going to retire at 60. By the time you are retiring at 60, both are in top management. Nobody will know who entered earlier. We're just colleagues. Am I right?
Yeah.
You know, by the time I retired, I was in management with guys I recruited. Because if people are retiring, you are retiring, replacing. Within no time, you are talking, a guy who was my recruit is now with me, only in charge of one division, and I'm in charge of a different division. The age disappears. So what was I running to? So unless you retire from that organization to go to another one, once you have reached the top, you have. So why does it matter to you that you reach earlier than me? Allocate your time, and that's a very good question. The time requirements are not the same at every age. They change. Like now, I used to write one book every 3 years, one book. During COVID, I wrote 4 books in 1 year. I can reorganize my time. There are no small children, which I could not have done when my children were young. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Who will be the last to comment? Yes, Yevega.
Yes, I want to say thank you. Maybe that's why I should be the last one. I hope I'm not closing out any other person. But I sincerely wanted to say thank you for this day. It's been a great experience for us as we share together and as we learn from you. We were seated over lunch and we were saying that these things are just flowing naturally from you. You know, they are not those things that we are struggling to find out where they're coming from. And we honestly want to say, on behalf of all these people, thank you for sparing time to share with us wisdom. Thank you for sparing your energy to come and inspire us and guide us. And we can only pray that God will keep you long, so that when we have another opportunity like this, we can come back and be a blessing to us.
May the Lord hear your prayers.
Amen.
Amen. So we will now change. The books will be left with Warui to think what to do with them. I promise a cup of coffee to reevaluate, to do a revaluation of this conference.
Yeah.
And you can come with the books wherever we will take our coffee.
Sure.
Okay. So now you will release Wilson and I and allow you to conclude in one way or the other.
Yeah, but thank you very much for creating the time. At least history has been made because it seems